Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadidamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Namaste and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Alexandra Savithri, Director of the Vedic Healing Center and the American Reiki Academy. I'm a Reiki master, Vedic healing master, feng shui teacher, and spiritual life coach. I've taught spiritual self-development for more than 30 years, led pilgrimages to India, and studied with Indian gurus. In this show, we cover topics related to metaphysics, Reiki, Vedic healing, feng shui, and spiritual growth. The aim of these shows is to help you create a successful spiritual practice that enhances your life, bringing you happiness, well-being, peace, and productivity, so you may become the best version of you. Welcome to today's episode, which is entitled Building a Successful Reiki Practice. So today I'm going to give you some beginning and advanced techniques that will help you build a successful practice as a Reiki healer or a Reiki master. And the first thing I'd like to do is define the word success. Usually we think success has to do with money, with material wealth, with the accumulation of things. And certainly, on one level, it does, because we need money to operate in this physical universe, in this material world. But money and the acquisition of things and objects, these are just one aspect. They represent one aspect only of the idea, the notion, the concept of success. Success also has many other elements. And as healers, we strive to walk our walk, to talk our talk. You sometimes hear this phrase in metaphysics, in healing circles, and this means to be kind, to spread love, to evolve through spiritual concepts, and mostly to be introspective, to be critical of the self, to examine the self. And I don't mean critical in a negative way. Criticism can be very positive. The act of being critical, of looking at ourselves, examining how we are being in the world, how we are acting, how we present ourselves, how we interact with others, all of this is an integral part of the spiritual path. So I would say as healing practitioners and as spiritual seekers, we are a bit different. We are a bit removed from this world, separate from this world, but we also must be part of it. So there's that saying, it originally comes from the Bible. It's to be in this world, but not of it. So we cannot run away or remain isolated in our beautiful, peaceful meditation spaces. And it's actually one of the teachings of Krishna also. Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Gita that we must still interact in this world. So it's the spiritual practitioner is not running away from life, but rather interacting with life and learning and evolving in that way. But the spiritual practitioner is keenly focused upon his or her actions, and this idea of walking our walk and talking our talk can only really occur if we embrace sadhana. So there is a lot to do within sadhana, but it is a magnificent practice that brings amazing riches on all levels. And so today, let me bring you some ideas on building a successful practice as a Reiki healer and as a healer of any sort, really. So specifically, I'm focusing on Reiki because that is what I've taught for so many years. But I want to stress that a healer may begin with Reiki and maintain her Reiki practice, but also branch out in other directions, other beautiful directions. And so today I will give you first some kind of introductory or basic ideas in regard to being an effective healer, and then I'm going to go into some advanced ideas. So the first thing I'd like to say is apply your Reiki, your yoga, your meditation, your chanting. Don't just learn these techniques and then not apply them. I've witnessed a lot of people jumping from one technique to another. And although there is great value in learning many things, we cannot forget to apply what we have learned. So this means using the techniques on ourselves, on others, on animals, on projects. In one of the recent podcasts, I actually asked people to send Reiki to a little dog I know. His name is Rudy. He's a little chocolate chihuahua who is almost 16 years old. And of course, all of us at some point will have to leave these bodies we are in. So Rudy has a condition in which there isn't a great deal amount of hope. However, we have been sending Reiki to him and offering daily prayers, and the vet is quite astounded right now that he is doing so well. So sometimes when we learn Reiki, we give Reiki to hospice patients, people who are at the end of their lives, and it's a very different experience than giving Reiki to someone who is full of life. It's a very somber and beautiful and poignant and bittersweet kind of healing. But it is part of life. So I want to just mention that about Rudy, and also to ask anyone who cares to keep sending Reiki and love to this little dog. Sweet soul, as all animals are. So look for opportunities to use your Reiki. Now, sometimes when I talk on these podcasts, I naturally mix the Reiki with the yoga, the meditation, the chanting, the visualization. To me, all of this is intertwined. And so I cannot separate them out. So when I say apply your Reiki, I'm also saying apply your yoga, apply your meditation, apply your chanting. And all of these grand magnificent techniques where we are all learning work together. But the point is with this to apply them, not to just learn them and go on to the next modality. Now, the next idea for today is to start thinking of yourself as a healer, as a spiritual seeker, as a healing practitioner. I have said before in classes that for many years I never used the word healer because that word sounds very grandiose. It sounds like you do magical things. Somebody has a condition and you take it away. This is not exactly what the healer does, and we're going to talk about this in one of the next podcasts. However, think of yourself as a healer. Think about what that word encompasses. And again, I'm going to go into this probably in the next podcast. But I didn't use that word for many years. I used to say healing practitioner. And it's just like when I became a Reiki master for a long time, I didn't say Reiki master. I said I was a teacher of Reiki. The word healer and also the phrase Reiki master sounded too grandiose to me. And once I started to understand what the terms meant, I understood also there is actually a distinct lack of ego involved. So a Reiki master doesn't imply we are so great, and the term master sounds quite large, almost larger than life. And we understand these terms, healer and Reiki master, differently as we keep progressing on the path, because we start to step into those roles. And in stepping into them, there's also a letting go of any kind of ego. So it's a kind of fascinating dance that we do. But with the doing and the teaching of this practice of Reiki, you become a healer. You become, it's just like when you do yoga. At first, you are a yoga practitioner. And later on, you may evolve into a yogi. In fact, in India, this word yogi is reserved. It's a very special word. It's reserved for a person who has reached a high level of dedication with this all-encompassing practice of yoga. It doesn't simply mean someone who performs asanas. However, in the West, we use the term yogi to mean somebody who goes to yoga class. So I'm just making a subtle distinction. And words are so interesting and they hold power. So the second tip is to start thinking of yourself as a spiritual seeker, as a healer, as a healing practitioner, as a Reiki master, whatever that term is that resonates with you right now. Start thinking about what that means and then striving to embody it. And so the third idea for today is one of my favorite ideas that you've heard me say over and over and may be sick of hearing me say, but it is commit to your sadhana. So your sadhana is your spiritual practice, and it is the single most important thing, I believe, that you can do to amplify your power. And again, not in an egotistical way. This is to harness the energy of all of these beautiful techniques that we are using. So your personal sadhana, your commitment to every day doing a practice will really, really greatly help your spiritual work, your healing work in the world. In fact, I've talked about you doing, and each of us doing, self-healing through Reiki. But I would say also your sadhana is a form of self-healing. It is the greatest form of self-healing. And your sadhana can have Reiki as one component, but your sadhana is a comprehensive practice that you do, that I do, that each of us does every day, that will lead us to great heights. It will lead us to achieving balance, focus, peace, tranquility, abundance, whatever it is we would like to cultivate more of in this world and beyond. Love, health, all of it will come to us. And as we practice this sadhana, everything becomes available to us. Now, the fourth tip for today is, if you can, to take all the levels of Reiki, to study all the levels. I learned in the traditional system of Reiki, the Usui system of Reiki, and this is what I teach. It works. I've done it for many years. I have moved into also some other types of Reiki, but I've always returned to this traditional system, which was brought to the States and was the main form of Reiki that was taught for a long time. There's always value in learning traditionally. And for instance, I remember when I studied with Guruji in India, one day we were discussing the Gayatri Mantra, and Guruji was an expert in all facets of mantra chanting, and there's great depth to this chanting. It's not just you learn the words and you chant them. There's so many layers and fascinating bits of information about why these mantras work in our energy fields. And there's a science behind the sounds also. But anyway, we were speaking about the Gayatri Mantra, and I said to Guruji, I guess there's an optional Om in front of the second line. And he said, oh, no. He said that Om is not optional. That should not be there. So, and then he explained to me why. So what I mean is, the reason I bring that up is there is great value in learning all of these modalities as close to the original teachings as we can. And then, of course, being open. So Reiki, like yoga, has grown and expanded and changed. And some of it is just people marketing and, making the modality kind of unique unto them. But it is pure. Reiki is very, very pure. And you could spend a lifetime jumping from one type to another. However, I would say stick to your method, the way you were taught, and then the way that resonates with you, and master it. So that's why I say to pursue all the levels if you can, and really work with your Reiki. You can always branch out later, but try to master what you've been given. Use what you have been given, and the universe, that modality, will give back to you. So I'm going to go into some advanced techniques right now, and just a couple techniques for you to think about in terms of building your practice. So if you are level 2 or 3 and you are listening to this, I'd like to urge you to master the mental healing technique. This provides a great additional element to your Reiki, and it's wonderful for both clients and you. It's going to expand your third eye. I was taught Reiki by my Reiki master, who did not much speak any messages aloud during the session. And then I also worked with another Reiki master who was, in addition, a mentor and friend, and she helped me really refine the channeling technique. So a lot of times people come to me and they are so intrigued with the idea of channeling the angelic realm. So it is something that fascinates people. I want to say in regard to this, you must get very quiet in order to hear other realms. And this is the most important thing you can do. So we're not going to haphazardly speak or convey messages. These messages and the transmittal of them is a very deliberate process, and it is distinct from your own intellect, the way the messages come through. And the only way we can access these messages is by becoming very quiet and still. So in India, there is a term called mauna, and it means when you're in silence. It's specifically a practice of being in silence, of not speaking. And it's quite a useful and interesting practice to do if you ever wish to do this. And you can just select a day and decide you will go into mauna. This means no speaking. And it's a fascinating experience. You might think to yourself, oh, I could do that, no problem. But when you actually attempt it, you realize how much output we have on a daily basis from us the movement going from us out into the world. And the verbal expression is quite dominant. So even if you live alone and you say, oh, I could do that, I'll just spend Wednesday in silence, it is a challenging and beautiful experience. If you stayed in your house all day, you might even think that would be the solution, but you will still realize how much you want to speak. And certainly if you go into the world, it becomes more challenging to go to the grocery store and not say anything. You could avoid people around you. However, there's still mental activity. And this being in mauna, the point of it, one of the points of it, is to calm down all of that activity. And really, if you decide to do this, also, in addition to no speaking, you would also refrain from any kind of nonverbal communication. So, and you're not obviously writing notes to people in your house either. You're going within and creating silence. So this is the most important thing for mastering the mental healing, also being able to achieve that silence. And that's why when I teach it, I'm urging people to practice. But as you know, some of the earlier techniques in level 2 in that mental healing process are done quietly. We don't jump to the last technique, which involves pulling through the messages, the verbal messages. So the second of the advanced techniques I want to suggest today is to understand your role, your purpose as a healer, as a spiritual practitioner. So your purpose or role, your aim, is to bring relief from suffering, to be in service to other people. And one of the ways we do this is by listening to the client, because it is in the listening to them that we can really understand their problems and understand how we could offer some assistance. So again, this also involves being quiet, being receptive, and just being present with the ears open and being a safe space, a receptive space for the client to speak and communicate why he or she has sought out healing. So the third tip for today, one of the advanced tips, is to make your Reiki session unique. It will automatically be unique because you are unique and you have learned a series of techniques in a Reiki course, just as the person next to you has also learned the same series of techniques. But through your work with Reiki and through your personal sadhana and through your interest in the healing arts and through your dedication to helping others, the Reiki will grow and expand into a unique process, a unique expression of your healing gifts to the world. And so allow this to happen. At our healing circle, when we meet in person, we talk about other techniques, other modalities, other accoutrements we can add to the session. We might work with crystals, we might work with sacred sound, we might work with singing bowls, we may work with tuning forks, we may work with chanting, we may work with aromatherapy, we may, all sorts of things we can bring into the session to make it really amazing. So I want to say, and especially to the women who are listening to this, because mostly the women are naturally drawn to the healing arts. And I want to say to all of you, you have done this before. We have been healers, priestesses, crystal healers, witches, shamans. We have worked with herbs, with the cycle of the moon and the sun, the movement of the stars. We have worked with animal spirits, with angels, with saints, with deities. it is very natural for us to interact with other realms. And so I really want to impress upon the women who are listening to this that you have been a healer before. And in this lifetime, you are attracted to this energy again, and therefore it is up to you to use it, to work with the purity of whatever modality first comes to you. And often it is Reiki, because the Reiki provides such a great foundation. But work with all the techniques that come to you. Make your sessions unique and fascinating and lovely and beautiful and magical, and learn from one another as sisters on the path, as fellow healers. Learn from one another and keep growing and expanding and shining your light. Remember, the beginning of this podcast, I talked about success and building a successful practice, but understanding and just pausing to really take in what that means, this notion of success. So yes, it is about doing your practice and being compensated for the energy that you are giving out, but also it is about this other element of success, which is where we understand we are successful when we are introspective. We are successful when we master a certain degree of balance, of peace, of focus. We are successful when we walk our walk and talk our talk. We are successful when we get up every day and we do our personal practice. This is also something a healer does. She makes the world a better place, and she does that by starting with herself and by working on herself. So healers, spiritual seekers, we must commit to this daily practice. And again, it's not difficult, because when we do it, we find it is so magnificent, so rewarding. And I keep saying in my classes and when I interact with students and friends, I go to sleep at night looking forward to waking up and doing my practice in the morning, because the joy we get from this practice is beyond anything else. It's so extraordinary. If you are not getting this joy yet, then you will. You will with dedication, and you will with proper guidance also. And that's why I said as well to interact with other people at the end of this, the tips that I gave you, to be of assistance to one another, learn from one another. I've said this before in other podcasts, to be around other spiritual seekers. So a spiritual seeker is different from someone who just goes through the motions. A spiritual seeker is really somebody who's quite dedicated to this path and to the process and to the practice. So please seek out other people who are serious about this practice. And when I say serious, it isn't a weighty thing. It isn't a heavy energy. Serious just means dedicated. And the energy, though, is very light. So I hope this has been helpful. As always, please feel free to reach out to me. The website is reikiacademy.org. Reiki is the spelling of Reiki. Reiki academy.org. And there you will find teachings about Reiki. You'll learn a little bit about my journey if you care to read about that. And you'll also learn about Vedic healing. In one of these podcasts, I'm going to talk about my name and why I have the two names. I was given a spiritual name by my guru, and it was given to me brilliantly through his silent communion with the divine. And I didn't understand the name at first when I was given it, and I have grown into that name. So my path has been a blend of Western metaphysics and the healing arts and the Indian teachings of yoga and meditation and Sanskrit mantra chanting. And so my name, Alexandra Savithri Amba. In one of these podcasts, I'll talk about what it means as well. But I bring these two paths together because this is what has created such joy and love and happiness and, yes, success in my life. So, thank you for listening. As always, be happy, be peaceful, and know that you are surrounded by divine energies who work with you and walk with you. Ask for what you need, and it will be given to you. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Om Sai Ram. Jai Guruji. Om Amriteshwariye Namaha. Hare Krishna. Om Namah Shivaya.